Isopanisad Mantra 12. Andaham Dhamma Pravishanti Ye Sambhutim Upasate Tato Bhuya Evate Tamo Yahu Sambhutyamrataha. Translation: Those who are engaged in the worship of demigods enter into the darkest region of ignorance, and still more so do the worshippers of the impersonal Absolute. Purport: The Sanskrit word asambhuti refers to those who have no independent existence. Sambhuti is the absolute personality of Godhead, who is absolutely independent of everything. In the Bhagavad Gita 10.2, the absolute personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna states, Na me vidu suragana prabhavam na maharishaya ahamadihi devanam Maharishinam cha savasha. Neither the host of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and sages. Thus Krishna is the origin of the powers delegated to demigods, great sages, and mystics. Although they are endowed with great powers, these powers are limited, and thus it is very difficult for them to know how Krishna himself appears by his own internal potency in the form of a man. Many philosophers and great rishis or mystics try to distinguish the absolute from the relative by their tiny brain power. This can only help them reach the negative conception of the absolute without realizing any positive trace of the absolute. Definition of the absolute by negation is not complete. Such negative definitions lead one to create a concept of one's own. Thus one imagines that the absolute must be formless and without qualities. Such negative qualities are simply the reversals of relative, material qualities, and are therefore also relative. By conceiving of the absolute in this way, one can at the utmost reach the impersonal effulgence of God, known as Brahman, but one cannot make further progress to Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Such mental speculators do not know that the absolute personality of Godhead is Krishna, that the impersonal Brahman is the glaring effulgence of his transcendental body, or that the Paramatma, the Supersoul, is his all-pervading plenary representation. Nor do they know that Krishna has his eternal form with its transcendental qualities of eternal bliss and knowledge. The dependent demigods and great sages imperfectly consider him to be a powerful demigod, and they consider the Brahman effulgence to be the absolute truth. But the devotees of Krishna, by dint of their surrendering unto him and their unalloyed devotion, can know that he is the absolute person and that everything emanates from him. Such devotees continuously render loving service unto Krishna, the fountainhead of everything. In the Bhagavad Gita 7.20 and 23, it is said that only unintelligent, bewildered persons driven by a strong desire for sense gratification worship the demigods for the temporary relief of temporary problems. Since the living being is materially entangled, he has to be relieved from material bondage entirely to attain permanent relief on the spiritual plane, where eternal bliss, life, and knowledge exist. Sri Isopanisad therefore instructs that we should not seek temporary relief of our difficulties by worshipping the dependent demigods who can bestow only temporary benefit. Rather, we must worship the absolute personality of Godhead, Krishna, who is all attractive and who can bestow upon us complete freedom from material bondage by taking us back home, back to Godhead. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita 7.23 that the worshippers of the demigods can go to the planets of the demigods. The moon worshippers can go to the moon, the sun worshippers to the sun, etc. Modern scientists are now venturing to the moon with the help of rockets, but this is not really a new attempt. With their advanced consciousness, human beings are naturally inclined to travel in outer space and to reach other planets, either by spaceships, mystic powers, or demigod worship. In the Vedic scriptures, it is said that one can reach other planets by any one of these three ways, but the most common way is by worshiping the demigod presiding over a particular planet. In this way, one can reach the moon planet, the sun planet, and even Brahmaloka, the topmost planet in this universe. However, all planets in the material universe are temporary residences. The only permanent planets are the Vaikuntha Lokas. These are found in the spiritual sky, where the personality of Godhead himself predominates. As Lord Krishna states in the Bhagavad Gita 8.16, Abrahma bhuvanaloka purna avatino juna maham upityatu konteya purna janmana vidyate. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. Sri Isopanisad points out that one who worships the demigods and attains to their material planets still remains in the darkest region of the universe. The whole universe is covered by the gigantic material elements. It is just like a coconut covered by a shell and half filled with water. Since its covering is airtight, the darkness within is dense, and therefore the sun and the moon are required for illumination. Outside the universe is the vast and unlimited Brahmajyoti expansion, which is filled with Vaikuntha Lokas. The biggest and highest planet in the Brahmajyoti is Krishna Loka, or Goloka Vrindavan, where the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna himself, resides. Lord Sri Krishna never leaves Krishna Loka. Although he dwells there with his eternal associates, he is omnipresent throughout the complete material and spiritual cosmic manifestations. This fact has already been explained in Mantra 4. The Lord is present everywhere, just like the sun, yet he is situated in one place, just as the sun is situated in its own undeviating orbit. The problems of life cannot be solved simply by going to the moon planet or to some other planet above or below it. Therefore, Sri Isopanisad advises us not to bother with any destination within this dark material universe, but to try to get out of it and reach the effulgent kingdom of God. There are many pseudo-worshippers who become religionists only for the sake of name and fame. Such pseudo-religionists do not wish to get out of this universe and reach the spiritual sky. They only want to maintain the status quo in the material world under the garb of worshiping the Lord. The atheist and impersonalist leads such foolish pseudo-religionists into the darkest regions by preaching the cult of atheism. The atheist directly denies the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the impersonalists support the atheist by stressing the impersonal aspect of the Supreme Lord. Thus far, we have not come across any mantra in Sri Isopanisad in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead is denied. It is said that he can run faster than anyone. Those who are running after other planets are certainly persons, and if the Lord can run faster than all of them, how can he be impersonal? The impersonal conception of the Supreme Lord is another form of ignorance, arising from an imperfect conception of the absolute truth. The ignorant pseudo-religionists and the manufacturers of so-called incarnations who directly violate the Vedic injunctions are liable to enter into the darkest region of the universe because they mislead those who follow them. These impersonalists generally pose themselves as incarnations of God to foolish persons who have no knowledge of Vedic wisdom. If such foolish men have any knowledge at all, it is more dangerous in their hands than ignorance itself. Such impersonalists do not even worship the demigods according to the scriptural recommendations. In the scriptures, there are recommendations for worshiping demigods under certain circumstances, but at the same time, these scriptures state that there is normally no need for this. In the Bhagavad Gita 7.23, it is clearly stated that the results derived from worshiping the demigods are not permanent. Since the entire material universe is impermanent, whatever is achieved within the darkness of material existence is also impermanent. The question is how to obtain real and permanent life. The Lord states that as soon as one reaches Him by devotional service, which is the one and only way to approach the personality of Godhead, one attains complete freedom from the bondage of birth and death. In other words, the path of salvation from the material clutches fully depends on the principles of knowledge and detachment gained from serving the Lord. The pseudo-religionists have neither knowledge nor detachment from material affairs, for most of them want to live in the golden shackles of material bondage under the shadow of philanthropic activities disguised as religious principles. By a false display of religious sentiments, they present a show of devotional service while indulging in all sorts of immoral activities. In this way, they pass as spiritual masters and devotees of God. Such violators of religious principles have no respect for the authoritative acharyas, the holy teachers in the strict disciplic succession. They ignore the Vedic injunction, acharyopashana. One must worship the acharya, and Krishna's statement in the Bhagavad Gita 4.2. Evam parampara praptam. This supreme science of God is received through the disciplic succession. Instead, to mislead the people in general, they themselves become so-called acharyas, but they do not even follow the principles of the acharyas. These rogues are the most dangerous elements in human society. Because there is no religious government, they escape punishment by the law of the state. They cannot, however, escape the law of the Supreme, who has clearly declared in the Bhagavad Gita that envious demons in the garb of religious propagandists shall be thrown into the darkest regions of hell. Bhagavad Gita 16.9 through 16.20. Sri Isopanisad confirms that these pseudo-religionists are heading toward the most obnoxious place in the universe after the completion of their spiritual master business, which they conduct simply for sense gratification. Sri Isopanisad, Mantra 13. Anya devahu sambhavad, anyarahu asambhavad, iti shushruma dhiranam yenastad vichajakshire. Translation. It is said that one result is obtained by worshipping the supreme cause of all causes, and that another is obtained by worshipping what is not supreme. All this was heard from the undisturbed authorities who clearly explained it. Purport. In this mantra of Sri Isopanisad, the system of hearing from the undisturbed authorities is confirmed. Unless one hears from the bona fide acharya who is never disturbed by the changes of the material world, one cannot have the real key to transcendental knowledge. The bona fide spiritual master who has also heard the Shruti mantras or Vedic knowledge from his undisturbed acharya never manufactures or presents anything which is not mentioned in the Vedic literature. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly said that the worshippers of the Pitris, or forefathers, reach the forefathers. The gross materialists, who make plans to remain here in this world, remain here, and the devotees of the Lord, who worship none but Lord Krishna, the supreme cause of all causes, reach him in his abode in the spiritual sky. Here also in Sri Isopanisad, it is said that different results are achieved by different modes of worship. If we worship the Supreme Lord, certainly we will reach the Supreme Lord in his eternal abode. And if we worship demigods like the sun and moon, we can reach these respective planets without any doubt. And if we want to remain here on this wretched planet with our planning commissions and our stop-gap political adjustments, we can certainly do that also. Nowhere in authentic scriptures is it said that whatever you do and whatever you worship, you will ultimately reach the same goal. Such foolish theories are offered by self-made masters who have no connection with the parampara, the bona fide system of disciplic succession. The bona fide spiritual master cannot say that for everyone who has his own mode of worship, be it worship of the demigods or of the Supreme, it leads to the same goal. For a common man, it is very easy to understand that a person starting by train from Bombay can reach the designation from which he has purchased his ticket and nowhere else. A person who has purchased a ticket for Calcutta can reach Calcutta, but contemporary so-called masters preach that whatever spiritual ticket you may purchase, it will take you to the supreme goal. Such mundane and compromising offers attract many foolish creatures to become puffed up with their manufactured methods of spiritual realization. but the Vedic instruction doesn't uphold them. Unless one has received knowledge from the bona fide spiritual master, one who is in the recognized line of disciplic succession, one cannot have the real thing as it is. The Bhagavad Gita says, "Thus, O chastiser of the foe, the yoga principles of the Gita were known to the great kings, but the parampara system being broken, these principles appear now to be lost." When Lord Sri Krishna was present in this world, the Bhakti Yoga principles defined in the Bhagavad Gita had become distorted, and so the Lord had to re-establish the disciplic system, beginning with Arjuna, who was the most confidential friend and devotee of the Lord. The Lord clearly said to Arjuna that it was because he was his devotee and friend that the principles of the Gita were understandable to him. In other words, no one can understand the Gita who is not a devotee and friend of the Lord. This means that only one who follows the path of Arjuna can understand the Gita. At the present moment, there are many interpreters of this sublime dialogue who have nothing to do with Arjuna or Lord Krishna. They interpret the verses of the Bhagavad Gita in their own ways and postulate all sorts of rubbish in the name of the Gita. Such interpreters believe neither in Sri Krishna nor in his eternal abode. So, then what can they explain about the Bhagavad Gita? The Gita clearly says that only those who have lost their senses worship the demigods. Krishna ultimately advises that one should give up all other ways and modes of worship and fully surrender unto him only. Those persons who are cleansed of all sinful reactions could have such unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord. Others will continue hovering over the material sphere with their paltry ways of worship and thus will be misled from the real path, under the false impression that all paths lead to the same goal. In this mantra, the Sanskrit word sambhavat, worship of the Supreme Cause, is very significant. Lord Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, and everything that exists has emanated from him. In the Gita, the Lord explains himself. He says there that he is the creator of everyone, including Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And because these three principal deities of the material world are created by the Lord, he is the creator of all that exists in the material and spiritual worlds. In the Atharva Veda, it is similarly said that one who existed before the creation of Brahma and one who enlightened Brahma with Vedic knowledge is Lord Sri Krishna. The Supreme Person desired to create the living entities, and thus Narayana created all the beings. From Narayana, Brahma was born. Narayana created all the Prajapatis. Narayana created Indra. Narayana created the 8 Vasus. Narayana created the 11 Rudras. Narayana created the 12 Adityas. This Narayana being the plenary manifestation of Lord Krishna, Narayana and Krishna are one and the same. There are later readings also which say that the same Supreme Lord is the son of Devaki. His childhood with Devaki and Vasudeva and his identity with Narayana has also been confirmed by Sripad Shankaracharya, even though Shankar does not belong to the Vaishnav or personalist cult. There are still other readings also in the Atharva Veda, such as this. Only Narayana existed in the beginning, and there was no existence of Brahma or Shiva, nor of Agni, the fire, nor of water. There were no stars, there was no sun, no moon. He does not remain alone. He creates as he desires. In the Moksha Dharma it is said, I created the Prajapatis and the Rudras. They have not complete knowledge of me because they are also covered by my illusionary energy. In the Varaha Puran it is said, Narayana is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and from him the 4-headed Brahma became manifested, as also did Rudra, who later became omniscient. Thus, all Vedic literature will confirm this view that Narayana or Krishna is the cause of all causes. In the Brahma Samhita also it is said that the Supreme Lord is Sri Krishna. He is Govinda, the delighter of every living being, and he is the primeval cause of all causes. The really learned person will know all this by the evidence of great sages in the Vedas, and will thus decide to worship Lord Krishna as all in all. Persons are called Buddha or really learned, who fasten themselves only to the worship of Sri Krishna. This conviction can be established when one hears the transcendental message from the undisturbed Acharya with faith and love. One who has no faith in or love for Lord Krishna cannot be convinced of this simple truth. Such faithless persons are described in the Bhagavad Gita as mudhas, foolish as the ass. It is said that the mudhas deride the personality of Godhead because they don't have complete knowledge from the undisturbed Acharya. One who is disturbed by the whirlpool movements of the material energy is not qualified to become an Acharya. Before hearing the Gita, Arjuna was disturbed by this whirlpool, the reaction of family, society, and community affection, and thus he wanted to become a philanthropist and a non-violent man of the world. But when he became Buddha, by hearing the Vedic knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita from the Supreme Person, he changed his decision and became a worshipper of Lord Sri Krishna, who had himself designed the battle of Kurukshetra. Arjuna worshipped the Lord by fighting with his so-called relatives, and thus became a pure devotee of the Lord. Such achievements are possible only by worshipping the real Krishna, and not by worshipping some fabricated Krishna inaugurated by foolish men who are without knowledge of the intricacies of the science of Krishna described in the Gita and in the Srimad Bhagavatam. According to the Vedanta Sutra, the Sambhuta is the source of birth and sustenance, and the reservoir after annihilation. The Srimad Bhagavatam, the natural commentary upon the Vedanta Sutras, by the same author, comments that the source of all emanations is not a dead stone, but is abhijna, or fully conscious. Therefore, the primeval Lord Sri Krishna says in the Gita that he is fully conscious of the past, the present, and the future, and no one, including demigods such as Shiva and Brahma, knows him fully. Those who are disturbed by the tides of material existence cannot know him fully. Such half-educated spiritual masters try to make some compromise and make the mass of human beings the object of worship. They do not know that such worship of the masses is not possible, nor are the masses perfect. This is something like pouring water on the leaves of the tree instead of watering the root. The natural process of worship is to pour water on the root of the tree from which the leaves grow. But today's disturbed leaders become more attracted by the leaves than the root, and therefore, in spite of perpetually watering the leaves, all is drying up for want of nourishment. Sri Isopanisad advises us to pour water on the root, the source of all germination. Worshipping the mass population by rendering bodily service, which can never be perfect, is less important than service to the soul. The soul is the root generating different types of bodies in terms of the law of karma, or material reaction. To serve only the human being by medicinal aids, social amenities, and educational facilities, while cutting the throats of poor animals in slaughterhouses, does not add up to any valid service to the living beings. The living being is perpetually suffering from the material disease of birth, death, old age, and disease in different types of body. The human form of life is a chance to get out of this entanglement of material existence. This can be done simply by re-establishing the lost relationship of the living entity with the Supreme Lord. And the Lord comes personally to teach us this philosophy of surrender unto the Supreme, the Sambhutam. Real service to humankind is to teach surrender unto the Supreme Lord, and to worship Him only, with full love and energy. That is the instruction of Sri Isopanisad in this mantra. The simple way to worship the Supreme Lord in this age of disturbance is to hear and chant about His great activities. The mental speculators, however, think of the activities of the Lord as imaginary, and therefore they refrain from any such hearing process and invent some jugglery of words without any substance to divert the attention of the poor innocent mass of people. Instead of hearing the activities of Lord Krishna, they prefer to advertise themselves by inducing their followers to sing about the pseudo-spiritual master. In modern times, the number of such pretenders has increased in considerable numbers, and it has become a problem for the poor devotees of the Lord to save the mass of people from the unholy propaganda of these pretenders and imitation incarnations of God. The Upanishads indirectly draw our attention to the primeval Lord Sri Krishna, and the Bhagavad Gita, which is the summary of all Upanishads, directly points out Sri Krishna. One should therefore hear about Krishna as he is in the Gita or in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and that will gradually help him in cleansing his mind of all contaminated things. The Bhagavatam says, "By hearing the activities of the Lord, one draws the attention of the Lord towards the devotee, and the Lord, being situated in the heart of every living being, helps the devotee by giving him proper direction." The Bhagavad Gita also confirms this. This inner direction by the Lord cleanses the heart of the devotee of all dirty things which are produced by the material modes of passion and ignorance. The non-devotees are under the direction of passion and ignorance. By passion one cannot become detached from material affinity, and by ignorance one cannot know what he actually is, and what the Lord is. Thus, in the state of passion there is no chance for self-realization, however much one may play the false part of a religionist. For a devotee, by the grace of the Lord, the modes of passion and ignorance are removed, and he at once becomes situated in the quality of goodness, the sign of a perfect Brahmana. This stage of Brahmanical qualification can be earned by anyone and everyone, provided he follows the path of devotional service under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. The Bhagavatam says that any low-born, living entity can be made purified under the guidance of a pure devotee of the Lord, because the Lord is so extraordinarily powerful. The first sign of Brahmanical qualification is that the candidate becomes happy and becomes enthusiastic in the matter of devotional service to the Lord. This unveils before him automatically all about the science of God, and thus knowing the science of God, he gradually becomes loosened from his material attachments, and his doubtful mind becomes crystal clear by the grace of the Lord. In this stage only can one become a liberated soul and see the Lord in every step of life. This is the perfection of Sambhavat, as described in this mantra of Sri Isopanisad.